So it's that time again for another episode of Cruzin on the Pods, where there's real talk, real recovery, real purpose, and real effort. I'm your host, Gerald Cruz, and I am so grateful to be here with Mayor Smith. We're going to have a conversation around all things Milford. This is my hometown. It has been for the last 30 years. My son grew up here mostly, went to school, and also Mayor Smith has grown up here in Milford, and is on his second term or second time around as our mayor for Milford. So thank you so much, Mayor Smith.
Pleasure to be here.
Mayor Smith, Mayor Rich Smith, how would you like to be addressed?
Rich is fine.
Rich is fine. Yeah. Okay, we'll be very impersonal. So, your husband, your father, grandfather. How old are your grandchildren?
Madeline is, probably get this wrong, 7, and Naomi is 5, 2 girls. And they live just up the street from me, so it's a real privilege to have them nearby. So we see them often.
Yes. And well, I'm grandma to triplets.
Okay.
2 boys and a girl. They live in Bridgeport now. They used to live in Milford. And yeah, it's a whole nother universe when you become a grandparent.
Yes.
I like to label myself like grandma, because I'm too young looking to be a grandma.
I was going to say.
Business leader? You had a business at one point?
I have worked in the corporate world my whole career. I've worked for companies such as PepsiCo, Dun & Bradstreet, AT&T, the Hartford. So I've served in executive positions throughout my career, leading large organizations. So a lot of what I learned in the private sector really complemented the role here. When I walked into this office back in 23, I realized, or I felt, that I had actually prepared my whole life to do this job, because there's so many learnings. Now, public sector and private sector are different. Private sector is motivated by profit. The public sector has to be able to provide services, but there are a lot of things we learn, and I've learned in the private sector, they're certainly applicable to municipal government.
Yeah, that's amazing. And through your public service, you've been well rooted here. Your roots run deep here in Milford.
They do.
Yeah.
Not only deep, but close. My brother lives 4 streets away from me. Okay. And down in Laurel Beach. My brother-in-law and sister-in-laws live within 3 streets. Mm-hmm. My first cousins within a street. So down in our neighborhood is very much a village. Okay. And that's how I grew up. It's the neighborhood I grew up in. And my mother's family goes back to the 20s and 30s.
Wow.
Back there, they used to summer here from New York. Mm-hmm. This is really a summer location back in the...
I heard about that because I live on Seaside at the old Willard Motel.
Yeah.
And that was a vacation spot. And a lot of folks that had permanent houses in Waterbury, Smiths, I was told, or Fitzgerald's, would come down during the summer and go along the shoreline there and beach out. Yeah.
Even as a kid, a lot of the homes were still boarded up. Mm-hmm. When I was here as a kid. Boarded up in the winter, so it was still pretty much a beach community.
Yeah,
really turned in total probably in the late 70s. Mm-hmm. That more and more, there are very few houses that are just used for summer anymore.
Okay, yeah, a lot of buildings we're seeing happening. We're the small city with a big heart, but there's a lot of large buildings that are being. Downtown here, down my street, around the corner on Shell Street, there's a huge condo. How do you feel about that? With the amount, is it taking away the luster of the small town feel?
I don't think so, and I think that's my job, is to make sure that we're able to adapt to a changing world. Mm-hmm. When I campaigned last year, the issue of apartments and development came up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And after a while, I was smart enough to ask the second question, there are too many apartments. Is it the number of apartments that is at issue, or is it where we're putting them or where they're being put?
Mm-hmm. And are they affordable?
Yeah, well, that's a
another
whole
story.
another subject. But
Yeah.
invariably, the answer was it's where we're putting them.
Mm-hmm.
There are appropriate places for building of apartments or condos, but not in people's neighborhoods. You drive through some of our neighborhoods, and you see that we've put a whole neighborhood in somebody's backyard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people have a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
We look along the post road at some of the retail space that is now vacant.
Yes.
As I often say, we have a lot of nail salons, but retail is changing.
Mm-hmm.
Post Amazon, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
And what I say often when I'm out speaking to groups is that we're at an inflection point.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point where we have to discover and determine where our revenue is going to come from.
Right.
Because the post mall, I'm working on that. That's another story that we can talk about. But retail is struggling. So who are we as Milford? Where are we going to be in 2 years or 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to avoid placing more of the revenue pressure on residential?
Right.
So that's my job, is to, first of all, attract new businesses,
Mm-hmm.
retain the businesses we have, and make sure that we have a sensible plan for development and that people aren't building housing complexes in existing neighborhoods.
Right. And the money is not only being put here through real estate versus businesses.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're in discussions with the owners of the Post Mall. When I was mayor last time, I worked with them to come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan at the time was to tear down half the mall from Macy's and Boscov's back to Sears. And we are going to make that an open mall, open to the outside with like a town green and some apartments there.
Okay.
I have found that people don't really have a problem with apartments there because it's not, again, in someone's neighborhood.
Right. And they would be above the stores.
They would be mixed use, so they would be above the stores, and there would have been one apartment house.
Okay.
But it was integrated; it was part of the mall.
Mm-hmm.
My goal was to be sure we had an experience that people would go to the mall because they wanted to be there.
Right.
So there could be music out on this green. There could be food trucks. It would be a destination.
Community.
It wouldn't compete with Milford Center, which is a destination in itself.
Right.
But when I left here in 23, those plans seemed to go silent. Mm-hmm. And there was no word from the owner until a few weeks ago. I had them come up from Dallas and sat, in fact, in this very room to talk about the future of that mall. So we need to resurrect that space.
Right.
It was our largest taxpayer, and it no longer is. It is an incredible location and valuable location for us. What I don't want to see is that turn into a housing project. My fear is that someone will come in and say, we're going to revive the mall, but we're going to build a bunch of housing in the parking lot. What we see from other similar cases, when that happens, the mall can fail and then the housing's there.
Right.
That piece of property is too valuable for it to become a site exclusively for housing. So we're in those discussions right now.
Yeah. I was out I lived out in Las Vegas for a short period of time until my son called me and said, Mom, you're going to be a grandma. And so I flew back and moved back. And like I said, moved over here Seaside. And one of the things that I was really out in Reno, how they had the apartment, and I've seen several of them down like the Norwalk area. The way they had the apartments, they had the common area, like the swimming pool, outside, all kinds of outside activities, and the apartments were above, but on the outer part of them was the stores.
Yeah.
Right. So again, it was this built in, it wasn't like a fortress. You could get in and out with, of course, with a key tag or whatever. But it was just interesting how it was collectively all there, but also feeding the rest of, Reno. I haven't seen that many in Las Vegas itself. You got the Strip and, they have their themes of how they want to have things done. But yeah, I think, I just also heard recently the Hampton Inn was just renovated into studio apartments.
And and what they're doing is they're making some of those available. They came and see me months ago. Because the hotel was struggling. They weren't doing 50% capacity. So they're renovating those into reasonably priced apartments. So we even see an opportunity there for some affordable relief and providing, and they do have an affordable rate for some of their studios. So, and that's a business model I'm being exposed to more and more, that people want to come in and renovate hotels to turn them into apartments.
Yeah.
So there's some discussions with some other hotel owners locally that are looking to do the same thing.
And being in, I'm in, behavioral health, addiction services, work with folks that are unhoused, especially with the economy as it is today. I know we have Bethel Shelter that is also due to have a larger facility to house people temporarily, and hopefully it will, help them to transition to get into affordable housing. So something like that at the Hampton Inn, renovating that kind of space sounds like it could be very profitable also for the unhoused and people with mental illness and, struggling in other areas financially.
They'll make a portion of it available at affordable rates.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but what that speaks to is just rethinking the hotel model. Is the larger issue is we're at this inflection point in our economy that we have to think boldly now. The world's changed. And people say we're going to lose the old New England charm of Milford. We won't lose that.
Right.
My job is to make sure we protect that, while at the same time recognizing that we need to change with the world around us. We have opportunities for to attract and retain new businesses, to create efficiencies in city government, reducing operational costs. We need to be bold, is what I say to my department heads and my economic development commission, to say we need to think boldly. And we need to get out of Milford and look to see what other cities around the country are doing. Sometimes overlook this incredible opportunity to say, we don't need to try things and fail or succeed here.
Right.
We have a country full of laboratories. Every city is a laboratory.
We don't need to reinvent.
We don't.
The wheel.
Let's go find what's worked.
What's working, what doesn't.
And then steal it. You just bring it here, all things considered. So we need to have eyes to see what's going on around us. But to maintain New England charm and the character of Milford, which everybody loves.
Right.
When I knocked on doors during the campaign, it was without exception. People went out of their way, unprompted, to say, I love Milford. Why do they love it? Because the energy here, the sense of community, the sense of still maintaining that small New England town charm. That's a priority to me, to make sure that no matter what else is going on in the world, that we protect and maintain that, while at the same time recognizing that we have to reinvent ourselves on the economic side.
I lived in Shelton for a short period of time when I first moved here. I moved from Bridgeport. I'm also a person in long-term recovery. I've been in recovery for almost 31 years. And like I said, my son has been in school here. He graduated Jonathan Law. He's a lawman. I heard you are as well, playing football, right? Correct. And
no, I
oh, you didn't play football?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
Wrong note. But yeah, so living in Shelton, and I worked for Mark Loretti for a period of time. He didn't remember me when I saw him a few years ago, and then he said, "Oh, okay, I think I remember you." Worked at both his establishments, Marco's and I can't remember the other place, but worked there, and I've seen how Shelton has built up almost to it's unrecognizable as you go up Route 8 and you see the tall buildings, and you see on the the hill there's not as many trees across 110 and things like that. That is not the way you're looking to go.
No.
But you're looking to bring the businesses in so that it brings that revenue in, so it keeps people that have grown up here and their children or grandchildren a place safe for them to live. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not Shelton, and
Yeah.
we provide a lot of services in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And while people worry about taxes, and as I worry about them, we've also become accustomed to a certain level of city services.
Yeah.
I mean, our parks and our beaches, and even paving of our streets, the plowing of our streets, all of these things, they cost money. Shelton has a very low tax rate, but their services are, far less than ours.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not worried about Shelton. I'm more worried about making sure, as I said, that I'm able to find ways to reimagine Milford,
Yeah.
to protect the residential taxpayers, bring in new business. And something I mentioned a moment ago that I want to go back to, and that is retain businesses. I have a mission to get out and meet with current businesses here,
Mm-hmm.
just unsolicited, and set up meetings to say, I just want you to know we appreciate having you here. I have an open door here at City Hall. If there's any way the city can help you, if you have questions. I went out to meet with the owner of FCP Euro, a car part company that's here in Milford. It's an incredible company. And I asked to meet with him just to say, listen, I value your company in Milford.
Mm-hmm.
I want to open the lines of communication so that if there's something you need, there's some way we can help you, we have a line of communication.
Yeah.
And he was very grateful for the outreach. I think these businesses want to be seen,
Mm-hmm.
and we have an obligation. I have an obligation to make sure they feel that way, that they're valued. They're a valued part of our community.
That's important. Relationship building, right? And bringing that sense of rapport. I had a nonprofit back in, opened it up in 2014. It was the Reach Out Project. I started working through the Milford Prevention Council. They were very supportive in helping me get it started, and also working with the United Way. And, you know, it I'm not going to say it failed during COVID. It was unfortunate that I wasn't able to. I had a little spot on Nuggets Cab. I had a little, spot over there by Slices Pizza, and we did yoga, and we had AA meetings, and we had 12-step programs, things like that. And I also train what they call peer support specialists, people with lived experience like myself, to work in places like Bridges. I've trained a lot of the peer support that they currently have there at Bridges, so we have a great relationship. And unfortunately, the state, federal funding is always hard to tap in for nonprofits. State funding is also a little difficult, the block grants and things like that. But I was lucky to really establish great relationships with United Way and Milford Prevention, which helped me, in funding. And I had walks down by Walnut Beach, and people from out of town would come and like, wow, you live here?
Yeah.
This is amazing. And I did close our doors because of, between COVID and just the economic things were going on. I have no regrets on that, but how is your relationship with our nonprofits here in Milford?
I'd like to say it's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I work closely with Jen at Bethel and
Mm-hmm.
Jen at Bridges, and our food banks. Susan with Purple Pantry, and
Yes.
Ashley, and over at Food for Kids. One of the first things I did when I was mayor the first time was bring together a meeting of all the food pantries
Okay.
to say, how can the city, they're doing an excellent job, let me
Mm-hmm.
say, and they certainly don't depend upon the city. We do provide grants to most all of those. We need to get Purple Pantry on a regular rotation for a city grant because of the great work that Susan does and the pantry
Absolutely.
does. But I brought them together to say, how can the city help you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see an opportunity where we can, in our health department under Deepa Joseph does a great job as well on the human services side. So she's a player in that space. So my relationship, I'd like to say, and I hope they would agree, is excellent because they know that the work they do is a priority to me.
Right. Right. And again, nonprofits, churches. Again, I connected with Grace Baptist Church when I first got here, and kind of planted our roots here as a family. And again, it brings that whole family feel, that community feel that I've always felt welcomed here in Milford. I love that we are celebrating Juneteenth at the end of the week. We're celebrating the 250th soon. And, so we're going with this is as being a woman, being a person of color. My concern is on our voting. What has been talked about in regards to securing as a woman who doesn't hold the same name. I have my married name on my license, but my birth name is different on my birth certificate. Is there any concern that we are going to have some difficulties around identification when we go to vote in the primaries? Is there any talk about just making sure that we're protecting either our rights or civil rights in regards to voting? Has there been any
Yeah,
conversation?
our voting is controlled locally. And in fact, just this morning, I was meeting with our registrars of voter to go over, they had a staff meeting that I sat in on to go over all the work they're doing in preparing for the primary, which we're going to have. The Democrats have two primaries in Milford, one with at the gubernatorial level and another at a state house race at the 118th. And the work they do to prepare, and whether it's machines or communication methods or workers, is exhausting. When I left their meeting, I said, the point of having the staff meeting was to remind me of how much work goes in to preparing for, and to your point, protecting everyone's right to vote.
Right.
We can certainly be proud of the work the Milford registrars do to ensure that. So it's protected here. It's a process that we take very, very seriously. So I have no doubts. It doesn't even enter my mind to be concerned about that.
That's awesome because seeing
I wish I
southern
felt
states.
that way about a national profile.
I
But
know. And that I think because we're so inundated with so much news, it's so overstimulated. I don't even watch regular news anymore.
yeah,
Local
it's
news much because of the miscommunication, the terrorizing of communities, what they're doing down south, the redlining, it's just, and I would hope that would never come this way.
yeah. I think we're lucky to live in Connecticut in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about families, we talked about businesses. Um, you recently just had an approval on the budget, right? I didn't look at the numbers. I look at numbers, they kind of scare me a little bit. But can you tell us a little bit of what the plan is there with the incoming budget for Milford?
Well, when I ran last year, one of the things I ran on was keeping taxes low. The prior 2 years, people on the residential side were hit with a 9.5% tax increase. And I felt, and I understand the upward pressure, operational costs, salaries, and so forth. I just felt 9.5 was too much. And I made a commitment to keep them lower, and make that a focus, that I deliver lower taxes. And as I went to doors last year and people engaged me on the topic, I told them my goal was to aim for the rate of inflation. If I can keep the city's budget, despite all of the pressures on it to move taxes, if I could deliver something in the neighborhood of inflation, I'd consider it a huge success in this environment. I walked in November and I had a $9.5 million deficit. I had a revalue of all the residences, all the properties. When I look at the effect of the reval, absent anything else, it pushes about a 7% increase, tax increase on your existing tax base. Now you have a $9.5 million deficit. You have to make that up. Right. So if I did nothing but just implement the budget as it was with the reval, taxes would have gone up about 13%. Obviously, that's not lower taxes.
Yeah.
I spent 5.5 months every day. In fact, I still have remnants of it on my whiteboard in my office. Cost modeling, applying the reval the prior year's budgets to see how it would have affected them. I had the finance director in my office every day. And I woke up thinking about it and I went to sleep thinking about it. And I'm proud to say that, and then we ended up voting. I asked the Board of Aldermen to approve my plan to phase in the reval. So if your house went up $100,000 in value as a result of this reval, granted, some went up a lot more. The average was about 40%.
Okay.
If we implemented that all at once, and some people say, well, it would have dropped your mill rate. Just so you know, the mill rate is the multiplier. It would have dropped it, but our taxes still would have been at about 11%.
Right.
By phasing it in, you keep some of the burden on the commercial side, because the reval tends to shift a lot of the burden from the commercial to the residential side in a huge way. I asked for a phase in. We'll phase in the new values over a course of 5 years. So as I started to say, if your house went up $100,000 in value, this year it would only go up $20,000, and next year another 20. So it eases us into this new number, really softening the blow of the reval,
Right.
which is a state mandate. I mean, I didn't come in. The reval was already done before I got here, and the notices were going out the day I arrived. So people were already upset with me, blaming me for the reval. But for the folks in Milford to know that I have worked very, very hard, committed to delivering lower taxes, and they are going to be a lot lower than the 13% I walked in with, or even the 9% that they dealt with over the last couple of years. So proud of the work we did. And we came in very close to inflation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, we're watching it nationally.
Oh, yeah.
This downfall of our economy. And, it is scary. It's scary for like I said earlier, our grandchildren and the luster of Milford and any other small town that, there's people in the White House that are making really bad decisions and on our behalf.
Yeah, we have no control over things like electric prices or gas with the war and tariffs that are pushing up the price, the affordability issue. We're not doing anything drastic or new or major, spending a lot of money in the city. In fact, we continue to look for, and I've had some degree of success already in finding efficiencies so that we can drive down the operational costs. Again, it's retain the businesses we have. It is attract new businesses, and it's to reduce the operational costs of running the city. And once I got through the 5.5 months of, budgeting and figuring out how to keep taxes low, now I shift to say, how do we improve processes?
Right.
We have an efficiency committee that meets. We have another committee that meets to talk about how do we make it easier to do business in Milford. Somebody wants to come and apply to open a business. The process maybe was broken, and Milford apparently had a reputation for being hard to do business in. We're going to change that. We're changing it so that we are an attractive place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't want to have that label because you have one person that you rub the wrong way, and they'll
tell
spread
5
it.
more.
Oh
That's
gosh,
right.
it will spread
But
like
bringing those
wildfire.
businesses while at the same time protecting the small New England charm. That's the challenge.
Right. And I love that history. If you walk around the green, not just the statues, but in every part, the Milford Chamber has a luster of, there's probably a million places that I have not even visited here in Milford. What would you say is your favorite?
The Listman's Landing in the harbor is breathtakingly beautiful, and Jim Donegan, who oversees it for us, does an incredible job down there.
Yeah.
We're thinking of things like maybe we open a beer garden down there seasonally or something, bring people down with picnic tables. Where do we have assets that we can leverage so that the public can enjoy them more? Downtown is just, the Downtown Business Association does a great job too. I mean, it was 2 weeks ago, we had Pirate Day and then a fair on the green. There's concerts every week that the
Brings
chamber
families,
puts on.
brings kids. Yeah.
It's really an energized vibe downtown, and even throughout the neighborhoods. When I was campaigning last year, having a chance to knock on like 5,000 doors, and it gave me a chance to see inside neighborhoods I'd only driven by before.
Right.
What just a great town it is. I've worked in these international corporations and worked with people all over the country. And when you grow up, you think, oh, I've got to move out of my hometown. I want to go conquer the world. Until if you're from Milford, you turn around and you go, wait a minute. I just happen to be lucky enough to have been born in what should be a destination for me. I know with all respect to Kansas or Iowa, but if I grew up there, I may say, I want to go to California or I want to go to the East Coast.
I drove through Iowa. It's boring.
But my point is, if you're here, I brought in I worked for AT&T just before I started this job, and I brought in my staff for a 3-day lockup here in Milford, and they loved it. In fact, we came back 2 years in a row, because if you've never been here, if you've never had a chance to just sample Milford, I encourage people to come here, spend a day, have breakfast at the corner across the street, or dinner at the Founder's House, or at Stonebridge or Citrus, all the restaurants we have down. Go see the harbor, the activities down there, endless list of activities. And as you know, this Saturday we have the 250th celebration. First, we have the Milford Concert Band performing on the green at 10.
Okay.
And I had the privilege of listening to them in a Christmas concert here in the auditorium in City Hall. And they are incredible. They really, if you listen to them, you'd say, wow. And they're going to be playing on the green at 10 o'clock. Then we have the kickoff of the parade at 11, which promises to be the biggest parade we've ever had.
Okay.
Followed by Juneteenth on the green, which is always a lot of activity. And then followed by a kickoff to summer right down at Listman's Landing from 4:30 to, 10. And huge firework display.
I'll watch that from my porch.
Yeah.
The fireworks, and which, I'm right by Trumbull Beach. So all I have to do is grab my chair and I'm there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about parking. Milford's a great place to be.
It is. It is. And I do live in a very busy area, especially summertime. It's extremely busy. I've gotten used to it. The first year, I've been there 4 years in September at the old Willard Motel. And it is. So I work from home. So, and during my breaks, I make sure I try to get outside. I'll take a little walk, I can't see the water from my apartment. I do have an outer apartment from on Shell Ave there, but it is breathtaking, and it just clears your head from everything else that's going around. One of the things that I did notice, as my son was growing up, we had him involved in different camps during the summertime. I know there's a skate park now that they rebuilt or they re-put together. We have Eisenhower Park. There's just small parks over by United Way, down Center Grove there on the Devon side. And again, this question may not even really, I know you probably talked to educators in the rec department, Park and Rec. What are we doing for especially our teenagers, but what are we doing for our youth that are so attached to their electronics? Are we looking into providing more programs, especially around the summertime? Because I'm watching these kids with their motorbikes and whatever, doing wheelies down the middle of the road. And I'm like, well, we know that both their parents are probably working. What are we doing?
Well, there's a lot packed into that question. I mean, we provide a lot of activities for kids in the summer. Our really, I think Milford is one of the things we're best known for is all of our athletic fields and activities. If you go down behind the library on any given day, you have pickleballers, you have tennis, you have baseball going on down there. We have 5K runs every weekend that somebody's sponsoring.
Yeah, they're running by my house at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so there's so much. being a dad and having raised 3 daughters, I realized the trick to parenting is keep your kids active, keep them moving.
Yes.
It's hard to look at your cell phone if you're playing center field.
Absolutely.
So Bill Garfield, who's our director of Parks, Beach, and Rec, does an incredible job of this time of year, he's all out busy on keeping the parks going and the beaches and activities. Last weekend, I went to a sup cup that a small business in Milford called Scoot and Paddle.
Yep.
We worked with Tina to find a way for her to stay in business down there, and she's created quite an exciting environment. I went and they had this big race where people went out on their paddle boards around Charles Island and back, and there were people from all over the world there.
Wow.
There were people from many states. In fact, one gentleman who was racing came up to introduce himself to me. He was the mayor of a small town in Virginia.
Wow.
But we're attracting that kind of a clientele, that kind of a customer base for the athletic opportunities and the sports activities that we have here. So as far as motorized bikes, there are strict laws against a lot of these, and the question always comes down to, we only have so many policemen on the road,
right,
and we want them fighting crime. And if they get a chance, they'll cite these kids who are driving dangerously. It's been brought to my attention. We're concerned.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt. So we're doing our best.
Yeah. Yeah. But one of the things you mentioned around, sports, my son wasn't ready to get involved with shoreline football, but we had Camp Happiness, we had the Boys and Girls Club, and I know, again, they all come together, so they're not doing all the same things, but they're really trying to meet kids where they're at, age group appropriate, and things like that. So I am grateful. And Tina and I were actually in the same program that our nonprofit, where hers became a business, mine became a nonprofit. And it was Parent Leadership Training Institute. And we met at First Church over here. And once a week, we got trained on how to become a change agent. I had never really heard the word, now I say I'm an advocate today, especially for people that are struggling with addiction, mental illness, and homelessness. And that was just a great experience. And so to see Tina just evolve with her business, and like you said, people from out of state are just gathering around. And we also do, what is that? The sand sculpture, right?
That's right.
That hasn't happened yet, right?
That hasn't happened yet, but it will.
And they usually down at Walnut Beach, they have that.
That's right.
Okay. So we're almost going to wrap it up here. I know you're a busy guy. And so Rich, in celebrating our 250th anniversary, you mentioned about the band, you mentioned about, the parade, and people will be doing cookouts and fireworks. That, I think, draws a lot of folks and kind of forget about what's going on the outside, but remember what happens on the inside when we're what is your favorite event during 4th of July?
Well, first of all, 4th of July is my favorite holiday because it's warm outside, unlike Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I don't have to buy gifts for anyone or receive them, and there's just such a festive feel in the air.
Yeah,
I live down near the water, and Laurel Beach is kind of quiet most days. On 4th of July, it's like Coney Island down there. I love the fact there's, as you said, there's cookouts, there's parties everywhere. There's just so much, to use the word energy again, so much energy on the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And that whole weekend, right, it usually spans more than one day. And everybody just seems to put down their worries over that couple day period and celebrate.
Yeah.
And so 4th of July is my favorite holiday. I have a good friend who I've known for 25, 30 years who comes and spends the night. He lives up in Maine. He comes down every year, spends the night, and we get together with family. My brother-in-law has a food truck. a couple of streets away, and we just hang out. That's my favorite thing. Is we hang out, maybe have a glass of wine at night, watch the fireworks,
Yeah.
just chilling.
Yeah. That's
That's it.
what I always think about Milford, even when I lived on Devon side, and again, going down to Walnut Beach, taking my son to the local park. It is, and now I take my grandchildren, and I have tons of videos, and especially my granddaughter, she's my mini me. Her name is Raina. My grandson is Raymond after his dad, and then there's Roman, so he's the middle one. And not to say anything bad about Bridgeport. I got recovery in Bridgeport. I lived there for a short period of time until I moved to Milford and got married. Actually, had my wedding pictures right outside here. We did. Most people do. They come here just to get their wedding pictures done. So it has been home. And now 10 months that I was in Las Vegas, and it was hot. You can't even go outside during the summertime. And then my drive back was beautiful, just as beautiful as my drive there, because my drive there was with my son, my grown son, and just before he was married. And that was an experience. And then coming back with a friend of mine that helped me to move back. And just when I hit 95, on our exit getting off of Milford, and I stayed with a friend until my apartment was ready, I was like, I'm home.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Jersey girl. Born in New York, grew up in Jersey, moved here in 1993, had my son in 94. And I've called Connecticut my home, but Milford has, when I was first introduced to by a friend who was very connected to the nursing home, the nursing residency. It's not a nursing home. The residency, the senior housing over here, was very connected, and I didn't have a lot of connections. I was just coming into recovery, and they actually provided a whole lot of baby clothes and diapers and baby bottles. Like, I didn't have the traditional baby shower, but they gave me one, and
that's Milford.
Yeah, that's Milford.
Milford.
You could be a stranger, but still feel like home. And I've tried to carry that through.
You mentioned the 250th. Back in January, we had a gathering down at Gulf Beach. And we were honoring the people who came ashore, prisoners of the Revolutionary War, British warship, and brought them and dumped them. These were American fighters for the during the Revolution. They're all from Connecticut, but some of them had smallpox, which is very contagious.
Right.
Dropped them on the beaches down not far from you in Trumbull Beach, Gulf Beach area, and left to their own devices. One of our doctors, Dr. Stowe, cared for them. The Milford community could have shuttered their windows and locked their doors because they were afraid of the disease. They did just the opposite. Milford opened its arms and welcomed these people, cared for them. In fact, the doctor who treated them ended up dying of smallpox that he caught by treating them. But it was emblematic. I think Milford was like that then as it is now. It opens its arms. It cares for its own. It cares for people coming from anywhere. You talk to the people that run our food banks. People are more than generous in providing for the less fortunate. So that's something I'm very proud to be a part of here in Milford. Absolutely. And very much defines our character.
I think, and Milford allows us to be ourselves. That's the most important
That's
thing.
What our country's founded on. What makes America great, if America's ever been great? If you look at data, we're lagging behind the rest of the world in so many key statistics. But what makes us great is the aspirational nature that our founding fathers defined for us. And we have lived over these 250 years. We have continued with some setbacks to become better, more inclusive. If you look at the great inventions or the great milestones in American history, they were usually the result of an immigrant. Well, we're all immigrants, but I mean, that's what makes us so great is we are this tapestry,
melting pot,
and we can't lose sight of the fact that we are better, stronger, as one, as this diverse group of Americans. Um, that's what makes America great.
Yeah.
Some days we may lose sight of what makes us great,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the aspirational nature that morally we need to continue to grow and improve.
Yeah.
And there's room.
Yeah. I love this celebration. I'm looking forward to this weekend celebration. I hope it tops what the Knicks were experiencing last week. Probably not, because New York is New York. It's a whole nother world.
It is.
But it just the feel of, that celebration, finding things to celebrate. I tell people when I'm on a call line and they're in crisis, and we've de-escalated the call, they've gotten to where they can put their words together, and now I want to provide them with getting them connected to services as soon as possible. And even though it's in Massachusetts, and one of the things that I do relate to them, I said, find your joy. It could be in the smallest thing. And I think we lose sight of that. What is joy? It is an inside job. And a lot of people say, I'm just not happy. Well, happiness is also an inside job. We're always going to experience suffering in the world, but we can put that aside for just one moment, if we can, to see the forest beyond the trees and find that sense of happiness, find that sense of joy.
And you know where you find it? And science supports this. You find it in giving to others.
Yeah.
And they find that the physiological effect of being kind lasts longer than acquiring something.
It's less muscles to use a smile than it is to use a
And
frown.
that's what I say whenever I have a chance to speak. What's our reason for being here, if not to leave the world better than we found it? Every day.
Yes.
As small as a smile, to your point. Being kind, helping somebody carry a heavy bag or whatever it is. I spoke at a fireman's memorial the other day, and I said, when you do that kind of work, you can go to bed at night thinking, I've contributed. I've left the world a little better.
Circle.
And that's what I want to do in this office, is know that every day I'm working hard for the people who have honored me and trusted me with this role, that I make them proud, and that I make Milford a little better every day.
Well, I'm proud of you.
Thank
you so much for all the support you've given us, and I'm glad you're back around. I voted for you, of course. Couple rapid fire questions for you. What's one word that you would use to describe Milford?
God, so many words come to mind. I would say
you can have two. I'll give you two.
It's warm and receptive, embracing. Yeah.
I know you already said, Lisbon Landing as a favorite place to go, but what would you say, Milford Green or Walnut Beach?
Wow. I grew up on the beach, so I tend to gravitate towards the beach. So I'd probably say that, not that I don't appreciate the town green and spend a fair amount of time there.
Favorite restaurant?
Well, right now I frequent Fratelli's a lot up in New Haven Avenue, but my good friend Donato has Reggiano's down, and
love Reggiano's. Love the sausage and broccoli rabe pizza.
And he's a good man, Donato.
Very nice. Very nice. Went there not too long ago. Sometimes I just order out and have them deliver.
The last night I ate at the Bin, which is great. And Bridge House. I mean, it's hard to pick, to be honest with you, because the beauty is that we have so many great restaurants that you can choose a different one every day.
So I want to thank you again for joining me today.
It was fun.
Talked a lot about Milford, about you, and your hope for the future for Milford. And I'm looking forward to watching you. And I'm here too. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me as well. We connected today with all things Milford, but everybody comes from a little town, and a little city with a big heart is where we live here in Milford. So as we're all celebrating the 250-year anniversary of our nation, please find your community, find your joy, and please keep cruising on the edge. Thank you so much for joining us today.